is the best for all people. It depends who you are, it depends what your goals are, and in this video we will see in more detail about these choices and which might be best for you. So here is an example of a DIY installation. The sort of general thing to notice here is obviously it takes a lot of space. These are the old kind of gel batteries. If you use lithium, it will take less space, but still a lot more than a company installation. This is an installation we did recently. It's not like all company installations are like this, and it's not like all DIY installations are big and messy. Absolutely not. So you can actually get company installations that are extremely messy, and you can get DIY installations that look neat and small form factor. But in general, of course, DIY projects take a lot more space, and you don't have this kind of all-in-one look integration, because all the parts are hidden behind there in an integrated sense. While when you do DIY, normally you will have the inverter and you will have the batteries and you will have all kinds of connection boxes and stuff, and they will all be separate and have to be cabled up. So it's difficult when you do DIY to get a look like this. Now, of course, looks is maybe not that important for some, and that's sort of one of the things that I want to focus on. Like, if that's not important for you, then DIY might be good for you. So if we make a little overview and try to see what are the pros and cons, we can see obviously with DIY, price is a huge pro because it's very cheap compared to company installations. Of course, there are various reasons for that. The equipment is completely different. Normally, for example, Alpha, just to give you one example, this system, it's not even possible to install by yourself. It has to be done by an approved company. So it's often the case that it's not the same product, and like the batteries are very, very different and the inverters are different. So of course that's in the details of why the price is so cheap for DIY. And sort of connected to that is that when you buy cheap inverters, of course it's possible to buy expensive inverters if you do DIY too, but what most normally people that choose DIY, they choose it because they want cheaper things, and then they end up with quite low quality inverters with little or no warranty. So for example, if you try to look for a 5 kilowatt inverter and you find one with 1 year warranty, there should be some bells going off that it might not be the best work, It might not be the most stable, or it might not last a very long time. But then again, doesn't mean that it's a wrong choice for you or for anybody. It's just that it's different. And that's when we get into, like, if you choose DIY, then you should maybe think about having a backup inverter in-house. So if you do that, you can prevent yourself of getting in a very bad situation where your inverter breaks down and you have nothing. And obviously when you choose cheap, it's obviously possible to have a backup in the house, ready to install, but you have to make a plan for it, and that's what many people end up with, that they don't make a proper plan. They just do DIY because it sounds cheap and simple, but in reality DIY is very time consuming. But you can get a really good result if you plan ahead and really take your time, and that's what's needed for a good DIY. Because obviously companies that do installations, they normally will have gone through that whole process over those years to get the experience and the education and the knowledge that's needed to get those good installations. That's part of the reason why you are paying a higher price. So it's kind of very obvious why you need, to spend time to do research, spend time to find the knowledge about all of the different things. And for different people, that seems like it's possible to overcome and possible to do, while for others, it's just not possible for many different reasons, either because they have no time, they have another job, or they are not able to learn it. That's also possible, of course, but some people think that solar is easy, like electricity and things like that is easy to learn. Others think it's quite hard. So you just have to be honest with yourself and make a plan for what you can do. What we see is a lot of bad DIY installations, but that's obviously also because the bad installations have a tendency to come to us. So, but I also know that there are a lot of very good DIY installations out there. So it's not like you're destined for a bad installation. Absolutely not. It just means that there's a lot more bad installations that are done DIY. But there are companies also that install in bad ways. When you choose the company way, it doesn't mean that you are guaranteed a good installation. Obviously not. And especially in Thailand, there are companies that sort of they go into installations for a few years and then they just disappear. And not even that, like a year or a few installations, and then they just disappear. And using very bad methods for installation that are just cheap. And we see that all the time, like panels installed without ground, earth. That's one example that we see a lot. Obviously very bad, but it's an easy way to save money for an installation company, money and time. And the customer is very unlikely to catch it because they don't know what to look for, and if they don't look properly, they will not see that it's missing. So, and also in Thailand, actually, companies are not even companies. Like you might go and talk to an installer, and what they are doing is not even running the installations through a company. They will run it through private accounts, and obviously, if you then get a problem, you are you have no protection for anything. So to choose a company installation doesn't mean that you're going to be safe in all ways. Absolutely not. Yeah, you have to do the research there too. So that is very important to understand that, especially in Thailand, where there's a lot of cowboys around, you have to be careful, even if you go for the company way. So another good thing about DIY is that it's a great hobby if you have the time. If you like electricity, obviously. And it's something that you can do at your own time and learn new things that are very useful. And I would actually recommend that for anybody coming to Thailand or staying here for more than a short time, is that they learn about basic things like electricity. It's going to improve your life, just because, especially in the countryside, the knowledge is not that great. So if you learn it yourself, you're going to be in a much better position both to protect yourself, get a safe house, and save money and time. So it's a really great thing to learn about electricity first and then solar after. That would be a great way to do it. Obviously, another pro is that there's no installation cost except your own time. So that's obviously good. A lot of cons, of course, and we have touched upon this already, the warranty issue. And if you buy from China, obviously, if you have a problem, you have to send back to them, and it can be very difficult. So many stories about that, where People buy a lot of stuff and then they can't get hold of them, and then can't get help for installation, can't get, support when something breaks down. So it creates a whole big mess, or can. And another con is obviously that you need a lot of knowledge, but that can be overcome, as we talked about. Safety is an issue. So that's the first thing, to make sure that you are working safely with safe equipment and correct wiring and all these things. So, and sizing. When you are designing a solar system, one of the most difficult things, if you don't have experience, is to size both the number of panels, how much you need for different appliances, calculations, inductive power and, inverter power and all these things. So sizing can be probably one of the biggest mistakes, like undersizing for off-grid, for example. People think that the tendency is that people underestimate how much power they need in off-grid situations. But that can be overcome. You just have to calculate properly, but that is quite difficult, so you need some experience to be able to do that. So if you do DIY, at least this is a very, very important issue, and you need good planning here. Obviously, it can look messy, because if you don't know the end result, so to speak, it's hard to make a plan for cable runs and everything like that, so it can end up quite messy. That's not a big problem for some, but it's a big problem for others. So there you have it again. It's different for different people. Takes time, of course. Low quality equipment we have touched upon, and time consuming. But like we said, there are ways to overcome. You can store some equipment on site, have backups. And what I would recommend, if you want to get into it, like, make a small test system. You will learn a lot. You will learn so many things. Yes, it will have some cost, but it might save you money in the end, because of all the things that you are going to learn by doing it. And just be careful. If you're not sure, don't do it. Wait until you are sure. Wait until you have the correct knowledge. Electricity, you don't play with it. It can be very dangerous. So be sure that you have a plan for what you are doing. It's really nice to do DIY for people that have time and they are willing to learn something new. So, like we talked about, a great hobby. Mistakes can be very costly, obviously. So it's a good, back to the planning aspect again, that if you plan and don't make too many mistakes, then it can be quite good. Now, if you do some original installation method, then you will, in most cases, lose warranty. So that might be okay for you, but it might not. Especially on the panels where warranty is like 12 to 15 years. If you do like abnormal installation then on the roof, you will lose warranty. So you lose then 12, 15 years. With the inverters, these cheap inverters, I wouldn't care so much, because it's like 1-2 year warranty. But with the panels, there I would not mess with, your own installation methods, because you void warranty immediately. But if you're okay with that, then obviously that's fine. And there you have it again. It's okay for some and not for others. It depends who you are. So, but of course, you have panels that are cheaper and less warranty, shorter warranty. But that's an area where I probably wouldn't mess around too much with cheap panels. That's just my opinion. That even if you do DIY, I would use reasonable, high quality panels. It's not something I would, try to cut cost on. Need some experience with electrical? Yes, I think that's a sort of precondition you really need. And if you don't have that, you should at least set aside some time for that first. Obviously anything can be learned, and electrical is the same. You just have to set time for it. DIY can be very dangerous, and if you do on-grid, it can also be illegal. So be very careful, and like I said before, if you're unsure, find out what they're doing first. So over to company installations. Warranties are long. Inverters warranty is now of five and sometimes even 10 years for the on-grid stuff. And of course, the configuration is done by the company, and should then, if the company is doing good work, it should then be meeting your goals. But there you have it again. If the company is not doing that properly, then you could end up with a bad installation anyway, of course. So there's that. There's no guarantees with this method either. You need to control a little bit and get the correct company to do it for you. And all-in-one solution, obviously it looks beautiful, and it's neat and very small form factor normally, and configuration and wiring and safety is done correctly. Not always, but bigger chance. Obviously, the biggest con of company is the price, the company method. But like I said, you have to remember it's not the same equipment. Like, for example, lithium batteries used for DIY normally has a lifetime much, much shorter than the lifetime of the company, like Alpha or Sungrow or Huawei, just because they are made with a different kind of BMS that is able to prolong the life of the battery, and also how the cells are set to work together. These are proprietary solutions that are costly, but obviously that's what the companies know, and they know they have a good product, and right now the demand is so big that the prices go up, and it's like that. And I'm the first to admit that the prices of batteries now for these company installations are quite high, and we're all hoping for them to fall. The sooner the better. Sizing is done for you. Yes, some companies are not much different from DIY. We already talked about that, and that the scams are out there. So be careful. And sort of the goal of this video is to get away from this. Either that one method is the best, or that the other method is the best for everybody. I would much rather have people think a little bit further than that and say, like, DIY is good for these people that have these things and these goals, while company installations are good for other people that have other goals and other needs and constraints in their life. So it's not about what is the best, it's about what is the best for who. So okay, guys, take it easy.